Here we go. I did it. The week you learn to fly. There's something about the portraits that pulls people in. And I like it when they pop by. If they pop by, I wish I could do the landscape and the portrait. As a matter of fact, look, it's all good. It's all good. This is the weekend wrap. I feel like I need to go on another channel here. Maybe I should go and let some stuff happen on Facebook. Let me stop being greedy. This time, is where you and I get to sit down, right? You and I get to sit down and we get to chat about what happened. We get to catch our breath and tie a bow on everything we walked through together this week. So it doesn't have to stay in separate live streams that scroll by and disappear. Although, if you really want to dig into the material, you might want to sit in the live streams from this week and our discussion of the Ba. But today it becomes one thing. For anybody that wants a quick hit, this is it. This is your quick hit. All right. Oh, and I need to go off of my psychic line. Give me a second for somebody calls me and then I'm not able to take it. And some of these sites, they dock you some money when you can't get the calls. I don't want any income docked. What time was that off? That's 2:45. Yeah, I document everything. I don't know. That's probably from my research background. You know what I mean? And I'm going to put it on do not call. Yes, there we go. Now we're together. Okay. And so, as I was saying during the week, right today, what we talked about becomes one thing. And ideally, the live stream is not that long, right? You get little bits and pieces. And I believe it's helpful for folks that want the weekend wrap. And then they can see what we talked about and perhaps go back and look at the live stream. Excuse me, I'm just doing a little burping over here. And so, yeah, like I said, it's one thing you can pick up and carry into your actual life. This shortened snippet of what we covered. And let me tell you, oh, what a week it was. I mean, look, this week we walked into the sixth body of light in the gate of Ba. Look, we covered the gate of Ka, which is in the power of release, is the recognition, recognizing what is happening in your life, recognizing the gifts that you have, and then figuring out what needs to be released in order to move into flight, which is the release, right? Knocking off those things which have been weighing you down, and you recognize them. You recognize where they sit and perhaps some of the emotions that are tied with it. So the gate of Ka, which we covered, is the recognition. The gate of Ba, which we're finishing up today with the Ba, is the release. And then the gate of Ak, which we begin next week, is the reframe. And I got to check on this because this is more than a night. This is a 10-week series. I can't believe it went so fast. It went really fast. And so again, this week we walked the gate, the sixth body of light, the Ba, the soul. And with it, we completed the whole. I didn't even check to see how I am looking on YouTube. Give me a second here. Give me a second to see what's happening here. It's still a little pixelated. I'm not sure what's going on with my well, I need a new camera, just point blank period. But that's a whole nother story. So so the Ba is the soul, right? And flight. And with it, we opened the whole gate of this path, the gate of Ba, the flight. If you were here for all of it, And I hope that you were. I want you to feel how far we have come in this time. And if you missed a day or three, it's okay. Do not dare feel behind. You're not behind. Stay right here with me because I'm going to give you the whole thing, start to finish. Maybe not all of it. The live streams do that, but I'm going to give you the whole thing. And more than that, I'm going to give you what it means for you, right? And again, this weekend wrap ideally will motivate you to sit in a live stream or two to take in more. So just take a breath with me. It's Friday. Set the week down for just a minute. I know it's like 2:48, right? It's not even time to get off work yet. But I know when my job around 2:30 or 2 to 4 or to 3:30, I would be tired as I don't know what, and I'd be trying to find something to distract me. And I would sometimes be looking at stuff on my phone as well as working at the same time. So I get that. Okay. And so just take that breath, set down a week if you can, take a moment, and let us look at what we did together this week. And so what I want to do is give you the one thread that runs through it all, right? So this single thread ran through the entire week. So if you forget everything else, I want you to hold this sentence. If you forget everything else, you were not born to grind. You were born to fly. That's easier said than done, right? And when we talk about flight, what does that mean? And grind, I already went in the commentary on Wednesday. I went into depth about the hustle and the grind. And I might talk a little bit more about that because I had these downloads that, yes, I presented one idea of the hustle and grind. I did the etymology. I did all of this stuff. But I realized in my quiet time that there could be a flip side to understanding the hustle and grind, although I'm still situated in the understanding of NOMO, right? NOMO is generative word power, right? Like I talked about last week, the spells that words cast in your life, right? And so the terms of hustle and grind to me are problematic because they communicate something really profoundly disturbing in your reality. However, the ideas behind it, the reason why, well, not the reason why, I understand, no, you can't really flip them, but there is another side to this, and I will talk about it a bit in a minute, okay? It's not going to take away my belief that these terms are incantations that do problematic things in people's lives, and the things in people's lives that are problematic become taken up in the inside of the individual. And even individuals, right? Because how we are, like I was a mom, my activities, what I did, how I felt impacted my whole family, right? So it's not just us that we have to be concerned with. If you have children that are extremely impressionable, right? Or grandkids or nieces and nephews that you want to try to communicate something uniquely different about approaching life, being in life, when there's so many messages that are going to tell them and strive to create an individual that buys into the BS of being exhausted all the time, and that being good, right? Working 24 hours a day, that being good, right? And when you stop, then you're doing something wrong, or you're a failure, or you're not worthy, right? This is not how we need to see ourselves. And we definitely don't want to commute. We don't want to communicate these understandings to those more vulnerable in and around us, right? And so, you were not born to grind. You were born to fly. And that is it. And this is the week that we did this work. Everything else we did was just how we got here, right? We went through all the 9 bodies of light. Not all the 9, but went through so far 6. This is the 6th one. So everything that we did so far in the gate of Ka and the ones we covered in the gate of Ba until today, these are all cumulative. They go together. So the work that we've done before, we don't just throw that away. That is all work that goes into other bodies of light, and it becomes like a daily hygiene, right? We don't do everything every day because we would be doing this work all day long, and then you would have a reason to complain, I don't have time. But the thing about what I'm presenting is that when you need it, it's there. And if you want to try no. And if you want to transform your life journey or aspects of it, begin to transform them. These are practices that indeed, in some together, help move you forward in that way, right? They help move you forward in that way. And who doesn't want tools and strategies to be the best that we can be, right? I guess some people don't care. I don't know. I'm of the mind that if there's something being freely given, right, I might listen to it and see if it might work, right? Or if I can adapt it, modify it in such a way that it seems useful to me. And that's what this stuff is, strategies and tools, okay? Look, the world took a soul, your soul, my soul. It had our souls that was built for an open sky, my friends, and strapped a harness on us, on our backs. And then it had the nerve to call the harness a career, a hustle, and ambition, right? And I'm not taking anything away from a career, but to be harnessed and feel harnessed, that is a significant challenge, right? To just being happy day to day. And so this week, together, slowly and on purpose, we reached up metaphorically and took the harness off. And the practices that I present are tools to help release the hold of those harnesses. Remember, the gate of Ba is the release. So when somebody asks you what we did this week, you tell them the truth. You remembered that you had wings. You remembered that you had wings, my friends. All right. Now, if this is your very first time sitting with me, let me catch you up, all the way up in one breath, perhaps, because you do not need the whole week to receive today. The Ba is your soul. And I do not mean it as a vague, far off word, because we talk about soul in so many different ways. I mean the specific one of a kind self that is you and no one else who has ever lived. And I had talked about what an astounding idea that is in the whole cosmos, the whole multiverses or multiverse, all the galaxies, every planet, everywhere. Now, somebody could debate me on that if we talk about dimensions, right? But I'm talking about just the cosmos, right? You are it. You are it. There's nothing like you. There will never be anything like you. Nothing. Down to the atoms, the molecules. There will never be a combination of molecules like what you have again. And we just throw away so much of ourselves, not understanding what a true individuality that we are, the unrepeatable spark that is you. We live and then we transition without knowing and embracing and having gratitude for just the odds that we would come out to be who we are. And then when we pop out, the world does its work on us and we fall asleep. We fall asleep. We're lulled, Lulled, lulled to sleep with a lullaby of everybody else's stuff. As I've talked about so many times, we didn't create this world. We didn't create this society, but yet we're in it. And we think that this is the way it's supposed to be. No, this is not the way it's supposed to be. None of this is the way it's supposed to be. But we buy into it because what else do we have? This is what we do. We shrug it off. This is just the way it is. The Ascension is about transcending that. It's not. Just think, you are a one of a kind person. And then we're going to stand there and go, this is just the way it is. No, I refuse to communicate that to anybody, to support anybody in that belief. I refuse. You are indeed a unique body, spirit, soul placed on this earth for a unique purpose. And you need to believe that. And that's sort of what the Bob Practice Guide, which is up on power-profit.com/resources, right? These are free guides. That guide helps you begin to discern how you're supposed to fly, right? Because your flight is an individual flight, not as a automaton, like a hamster wheel of life. All the work it took to create such a unique specimen, and all we do is get in the harness, get on the wheel, and run? Oh, hell no. No. Even me saying that now gives me more resolve about the things that I want to do. Hell no. Because you see what that is doing. You see what life that is. And then we put on our blinders. I'm just going to focus on me. Are you really focused on you? On you as a true individual, one of a kind. There will never be another you. Are you truly focused on that? We need to ask ourselves a lot of questions, because we think we're doing this the right way. We think we are in the groove. But are you really? Do you even know what you're doing? Do you even know why you do what you do? I ain't talking about, oh, I need money. Oh, I need this. No. Do you know why you do what you do and how you do it? Do you know why you believe what you believe? Do you even know what you believe? And what dawned on me was, I'm thinking about religion. Why do you believe in that? Who told you to believe in that? Why is that a belief of faith for you? I'm not trying to make you not be religious, but these are the discernment questions. Why do you believe what you believe? Who told you that was what you were supposed to believe? And even me saying those things, somebody could still push back. Well, that's God. Is it? Who told you that? How do you know that? It's faith. Whose faith? What faith? What type of faith? Where did it come from? Why do you feel you have to carry that faith? That's the only faith. Look, I'm just saying that. Look, I was a holy roller. I was an evangelist for years. Charismatic Christian, in the bus stop, saving people, accepting the Lord Jesus Christ into their heart. Bible studies up and down. That's how I became an ordained minister, right? So I'm not saying nothing to nobody, but I'm just saying we got to interrogate why we do what we do. You are a one-of-a-kind person, but yet we follow everybody else. We get in line. Ask yourself, why do we get in line? Why do I get in line? That's the question. Why am I in line? Why am I doing this? Why am I with all these people? But my family did it. I mean, we can keep going on and on and on. Why? Why? It's the why questions we never ask. Why? And those are some of the most important questions that we should ask. Why? 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 I'm sorry, I went off on a little tangent there. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I ask why too much. Maybe I want to know too much that isn't answered by everything else. That's my uniqueness. That's why I do what I do, because there has to be an alternative to all of this, because I did not create any of this. I just fell in line with what was. And maybe I'm still doing it. All I know is that, like in the Bob Practice Guide, when we think about our purpose, when you start going through that self-interrogation, when you think about, when you write down truly what it is that you want to do, does it make you smile? The things that make you, the little things you do that bring you joy, right? This brings me joy. This makes me happy. So this is mine. And you have yours too. But we don't sit down and think about what that is. That's the biggest things my clients want to know. What is my purpose? And the main thing that makes them smile, that gives them immense joy, is the thing that they say they can't do. It's a very interesting conundrum. I mean, I have all type of ways to baby step it out, but it's still a conundrum. And why do we think the thing that makes us the happiest? Why do we have fear about doing it? Where does that fear come from? Why can't we fly? Why can't we feel free to fly? Why does it always be accompanied by being scared? These are the whys. What is that about? I felt it too. I feel it now. But, back in the day, Joyce Myers was my woman. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I still believe in that, right? I mean, unless there's something that's going to get me killed or beat up or somebody, my family hurt, right? That's a whole nother story, right? Or that's going to destroy something. That's a whole different story. But feel the fear and do it anyway. That is courage. And that is a unique walk, because the scariness is fear many times of the unknown. And the unknowing sometimes is where you're supposed to be to really put pressure like a diamond on that rough diamond to crack you open and pull out what it is. Because it's all a journey and an adventure. And sometimes it could be a little rocky. It's rocky right now for me, right? Every time I think, I got to get a job, I got to make some money, I have a feeling that, no, I have to keep walking this. I feel something. I know. I know. I just know. And I can't stop. And see, I can't even speak nothing bad because words have no more. But what came to my mind was a joke. So yeah, when I'm out on the street homeless, right? Sleeping by the dumpster, right? Hanging out in the food line, getting me a free meal, right? Then you're gonna be like, see what happened? See, right? That is fear. That's a fear. That's a real fear. I feel it, so I know that this is a fear that people have when they go into the unknown. And it is real. I was listening to a brother today, Ben Carlson on YouTube, and he has this thing called Forbidden Knowledge, right? And he had this video. I might play it or put it up on my channel for people to look at, because it was just what I needed to hear today, right? I listened to it this morning, And it was five things. Talking about that five. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Give me a second. I'm gonna see. Um, been. Oh no, I don't want to. Give me a second. Give me a second. I'm gonna find it because it was powerful. I mean, it did something. It did something to me. Let me go to my history, see if I can find it. Uh, oh, oh, it's this one. I'm gonna put it on. Give me a second here. I'm gonna show y'all this. I don't know if it's gonna come up right. Maybe I can't show you, but it's five signs you're being prepared for something bigger. Five signs you're being prepared for something bigger. Okay. And it was funny because he actually talked about the finances. And it was interesting because he says, these things will all these five things will come together to make you feel like everything's falling apart, like you're a failure, like nothing's going to work. Right. And one of them was finances. And he was, this brother's deep. Right. And I'm going to give you his name again. It is Billy Carson official is the site. And so the finances was like, yeah, you get squeezed with financial scarcity, not to run back, and stop, but the squeeze is so that you, and I can't say exactly how he said it, but the squeeze is that you have no choice but to figure out how to make this work, right? And he didn't say it like that. He said it much more eloquent. I'm going to put it up on Power Profit TV as videos that I like, videos that help me. And that did help me because yes, I feel the squeeze. But he talked about all these five signs, they come together and they're pretty devastating, right? And these are the things that they're devastating in how you perceive them, right? And these are the things that happen that make people run back. They go back to sleep. They go back, right? And so when I heard that, I don't know, I just felt something different. I needed to hear that. I still need some income. But then I'm asking myself all day, how can I make this work? How can I bring in money? How can I make this work? I wasn't driving myself crazy, but I went out, I went for a bike ride, aired my head out, just thinking about how can I begin to make this work in a way that I have income. Now, people go to my website, they're like, oh, she's charging this, charging that. Just because I have things up, that don't mean I'm making any money. Y'all got to understand this. You got what? Rent, groceries, you need car payment, gas, clothes, stuff, life. So I understand the challenge intimately. But I am a one of a kind being who deserves a one of a kind life. And that is a one of a kind life driven by my purpose. Why I was placed on this earth. And this is why I communicate the things that I do, because each and I'm talking to Kim people because I talk to Kim people, each and every Kim person, Black person on the face of this earth, definitely the United States of America, need to understand that they don't have to prove their existence, prove their worth. You are worthy. Okay. And here's the beautiful thing. Our ancestors of the Nile Valley did, my friends. When they went to draw the soul, my friends, they drew a bird, right? On purpose, a bird on purpose, because they understood the modern world worked very hard to make you forget, right? To make you forget. The soul was built to be free. Kim Kim people have had a hard time with that idea free around the world, but definitely in the United States of Americans. And the soul was made to rise, to move, to fly. That is not a reward you earn at the very end, my friend. After 40 years of working at a job, I don't know how long you stay at a job, 40 years, and then you live. I mean, okay, we need money. I'm not down. I mean, this is all an individual thing, right? But this is not a reward at the very end. Who says we can't do both at the same time, right? That is your birthright, right? Right now, today, to rise, to move, to fly. And today, look, this whole week, today we're going to talk about how this week we tried to reclaim it. So today we're going to talk about how this week we tried to reclaim that understanding, my friends. All right, so let me walk you through just bits and pieces of the live stream. And I'm going to tell you two things: when the live stream was, and then more importantly, what it actually does for you. I think that we need to situate ourselves in that understanding. What does this do for me? I guess if I had more, what does this do for me? I might sell more stuff, right? Look, I don't know. First, the doorway, the door. That's the very first thing I do on Monday. You were meant to fly, right? And here is what it was. We took this whole long journey we have been on all these weeks, and we gathered it into a single picture. It was the cage, right? And then we counted the bars, the 5 bars we have already cut through together on the Ascension path, right? Because each of the bodies of light have a challenge, okay? And I call them bars on the cage, because if we can't deal with these challenges to our bodies of light, we indeed stay confined to the cage. And that's the body, the bloodline, the heart, the name, the word, nomo, the name, and the shadow, right? 5 bars they built around us, one at a time, into the cage, like any cognitive, socialization, acculturation cage, right? These are things that are poured into us so that we have certain beliefs, right? So the cage becomes normal, like the air that we breathe. And we mistake that cage for the whole world. This is what we can do. This is what we have access to, right? And for Kim folks, this is what we have access to in a pathogenic environment. Pathogenic means a harmful environment. So not only do we, we're in this cage, challenges to our bodies of light, the environment is harmful, and the resources may be scant. So we got multi-layered challenges to our movement, to our capacity to rise and fly, my friends. And so, we named the one key that opens every single bar on the cage, my friends, and that's release. That's a power of release framework. That is where we are now, in the gate of Ba. Now, here is what that does for you, right? It shows you the most freeing thing of all. The cage is never locked, unless it is you behind. Well, even if you're behind bars, you still got your mind. I mean, in prison, I'm just thinking about that. But the cage is never locked. It never is. It only held you because you're the one holding it. This is the end all be all, right? You hold the cage. And the moment you set it down, the door can swing open and you can walk right through. Yes, you can. You can make a decision. You make a choice. Nobody's telling you to leave your job. I'm just saying you make a choice. And again, I talk about baby steps. The choice might just be getting information so that you learn more about how to walk right through. Because sometimes you start to walk through and it's like, well, I don't know what's going on out there. Look a little scary out there. I'm not sure. And you go back in and you shut the damn door. Just like I sense I would like to do, right? To go back into the machine and get a job and shut the door because all this stuff is hard. It is. I'm not even going to lie to you. You know, you get these spiritual teachers, they all rich and doing their thing, and you're like, oh, and they want you to come and do their thing, right? One day, I'm not saying I'm not going to be. I've talked to my fifth dimensional self, and my fifth dimensional self is living large. So I know, I have faith in that. Yes, fifth dimensional minister Dr. Kalakama, I got it going on, right? That might be a little bit too much. Mind blown. But you go out the cage door, you look around like, oh, hell no. And you go to sleep. You go back to sleep. The lullaby and the comfort, man, that feels real good. It really does. It's just not enough anymore, right? So, look, it's the unknown that is the scary part. And so that was the door, looking at the bars of the cage, of a cage that we can freely walk out of when we choose to, right? And then came the commentary. That was on Wednesday. I didn't do the commentary on Tuesday because I was challenged. Any of these spiritual teachers that tell you they don't get challenged, they are insanely lying. I had to take the whole day. And that's okay. I didn't feel like a failure. I didn't think I was unworthy. I knew I needed to chill out. I probably need to take a whole week off, but I'm not going to do that until after I finish the Ascension. You know, got to give gratitude and have faith that I finish this walk, right? So, the commentary that I did on Wednesday after my day of rest, right? You were not born to grind. And you got to listen to that. I know it's a long live stream, but I invite you to sit in that because I put my foot in it because I felt it so intimately. All right. And in that live stream, I told the truth. We told the truth. And you got to understand, I use we as my pronoun, we and are, because Ubuntu, I am because we are. So if I am because we are, then I'm a we, because it's a we. I don't like to confuse people. So, I try to stick with the main, but all my scripts have we in it. We told the truth, right? We held the mirror up to the hustle culture and we started with the words themselves because words confess, words cast spells, words are incantation. When I was growing up, spelling, right? And somebody was like, yeah, words cast a spell. I was so not aware. I didn't even get what they were saying, but that person in my youth was obviously much more conscious than I was. And so I came to understand that much later down the line. But, look, we went to the words because the words confess, they cast spells. So to hustle back in the day, even hustle now meant, the etymology back in the day meant to be shaken, to be tossed to and fro outside of your control. To grind means to crush into powder, ground down to dust, right? And so we took those two words that describe a person being ground to pieces and flip-flopped around outside of their control, and we turned them into our proudest compliments. And I'll get to that. And we turn them into our proudest compliments. That meaning, oh, she's a hustler. Oh, she on her grind. She on her grind. You know, like that is a compliment, right? Then we trace the grind back to where all that really comes from, the afterlife of slavery, right? The people forced to labor and never allowed once to own the harvest. And so you can look at everybody grinding and hustling. They on their grind, they on their hustle. Yeah, there are some entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people that buy into that. White culture co-opted hustle and grind terms. Malcolm X talked about the hustle in his autobiography. Folks in Harlem had to hustle to survive. So mainstream took those words and they co-opted them, and now they are like decorations and achievements, right? And we get excited about the hustle and the grind. I talked about there was this app called Pep, right? Pep Talk. And it would be all of these super alpha Uber people, talking about the grind and hustle and how they got to work and they got to go. And I would listen to that. And it was just too much. Too much. I got rid of that. It was just too much. It was casting a spell on me, hearing that stuff all the time. I was like, oh my gosh. So it becomes these words that are lauded as achievements. We don't know what's going on in the people's bodies, in their minds. We see the material things, right? Maybe. But we don't know anything apart from what they show us when they are on, right? Like I would not come on the live stream and look and feel like I was on Tuesday, right? I'm on now because I have my energy, my little makeup. So you don't see people when they're off. And people don't really talk about what's happening when it's off. The exhaustion, the sadness, the depression, the anxiety, the pain. No, the struggle, like what's really going on behind closed doors. Working all these hours because they think the grind and the hustle. Because if they don't grind and don't hustle, they feel like they're not worthy. So if indeed you want to use those words, if you use them, which I don't support because words cast spells, you got to understand what you're doing and be aware of what that means so that you take terms, maybe find synonyms or get your own definitions to those terms. And when people use them on you, you make sure you define them so that they know when they say them to you, this is how you understand those terms. Because somebody could come back to me and say, well, yeah, I'm tossing the competition around, right? When I'm hustling, I'm shaking them up. When I'm grinding them up so I can get mine, right? So that's what I was meant. There's a flip side to that. That's all still pretty violent, right? You're going to toss somebody up, tossing yourself up. You're going to grind somebody to pulverize them. You're going to grind yourself up. That's all pretty violent. That's like self-assault. That's a word, self-assault. I like that. You're assaulting yourself verbally and then physically, right? And let me tell you, I told the story of John Henry, right? Who beat the machine. That's a story about a man, in slavery, right? He beat the man with his well, he wasn't in slavery per se, but he was going up against this machine. Who beat the machine with his own two hands and then dropped dead at the finish line. So he raced and worked as hard as the machine, better than the machine, and then dropped dead at the finish line. And so a scholar named that John Henryism. It's a science, right? That shows you can be winning and wearing out at the very same time. And of course, my background in academia as a health scientist, there's an idea called the weathering hypothesis, right? And for instance, Black people weather because we have to deal with all kind of pathogenic environments. So we are usually constantly in some sort of stress modality, which breaks the body down. So we're more prone to chronic diseases. And another part of weathering is that, there's a certain amount of years you have for childbearing years, right? And so, white women, Black women, all women, they have like this range of years, and you're supposed to have a child in that time because it's the most healthiest time, for your body and the child, right? And to carry a child. But the thing about it is, when Black women go get pregnant, right, we're having babies, we're already older, weathered in years. So we could be deciding to have a baby at 30, and due to our lifestyle or just being in the United States of Americans, we can actually be aged maybe 37. Our bodies are weathered. And then when we talk about the hustle and the grind, in addition to the racism, racial stress, trauma, come on. We could be winning and wearing out at the same time, especially if we do these things uncritically. And I talked about the coolest trick of all, the way the cage gets sold to you as freedom. And so that you volunteer your own exhaustion and thank the system for the privilege. Oh, you got to look at that. You got to look at that commentary. Let me tell you the difference. Excuse me. Now, what does all of that do for you, my friends? It hands you the power to tell the difference. That's important. The knowledge to be able to tell the difference between your purpose actually rising and the old engine just running inside your body. And again, back to weathering. When you think about the weathering hypothesis, you have to also understand that these pathogenic environments and all the stuff that we're exposed to, in addition to feeling we got to hustle and grind, be exhausted all the time, our telomeres in our cells shorten. A telomere, it's a scientific term, but when they shorten, which means we have shortened lifespans. We can die sooner because we weather faster, right? And then on top of that, we're hustling and we're grinding when we already got these issues. We're just living in a pathogenic society. It's compounded and acute. And we do not think about this one-of-a-kind body. This is it. And then we just heap all that crap on it because we're in a cage and we don't think there's nothing else. We don't even see the cage. It gets pretty intense, right? So the ideal scenario is that you finally stop grinding yourself to powder and calling it ambition, because killing yourself is not ambitious. It's the opposite. It is insane. There has to be a happy medium and another way, right? But the other way is the unknown. The happy medium is also the unknown. What if you die an early death? What if you never realize what you want to realize in your life? Because you got to prove your worth by working yourself to death. And then we came to teaching. The teaching came also on Wednesday. Well, it's usually on Wednesday. You were built to conduct, not to carry that harness. And this, my friends, is the turn in this whole game here, right? This is the hinge. The whole path is walking toward the whole gate, all the gates, the gate of Ka and the gate of Ba. We learned that there are two completely different ways to move through this life. The first is lifting that is doing it all by your own muscle, carrying the whole entire weight on your back, forcing every single outcome. And that is the grind. Because if you on the grind, that's you. You grinding. And it fails. Oh, it does. Every time, for one simple reason. A single finite muscle, you can never carry an all-out infinite load for a long time. People wonder why they get diabetes, why they get cancer, why they get heart attacks, why they get strokes, why they get all kind of stuff. Because we believe that we can carry an infinite load in a finite muscle. Your heart, right? And your body could be seen as a muscle, right? And then we learned the second way, my friends, orchestrating. I talk about lifting and orchestrating, moving from forced to force. These are all important. And I gave you the picture of a conductor standing in front of a whole orchestra. And here's what almost nobody notices about that damn conductor, my friends. They do not make a single sound. Unless they just jam into the music, right? Do, 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 do. I don't know. They do not force one note out of an instrument by their own strength. And yet nothing moves without them. And no, you do not have an orchestra. This is a metaphor about life, my friends. Well, now you can clone yourself with AI, so I don't even know. Maybe we can have an orchestra one day. Right? So they do not force a single note out of one instrument by their own strength. They call one voice forward and soften another. They just move and stuff. And they hold the whole thing together and they draw the music far bigger than any person could ever play alone. We forget we are not alone, my friends. And then I showed you the bird, your own bod, doing the very same thing. A hawk does not flap harder and harder to reach the heights. Oh, no, 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 no. This is getting in resonance here, right? Alignment. It finds the rising current of warm air, opens its wings, and lets the current carry it up. Can you imagine that? I just saw my thing flicker. Right? Do not force. Align. And people, you can hear me all day and night. But if you're not doing the work it takes to align and find resonance, it ain't never going to work for you. Right? But what does alignment do for you? It puts a second tool in your hand. After a whole lifetime of being handed the first one, of lifting and grinding, right? You can finally put down a weight you were never ever meant to carry alone. And that is, also when it comes to the ka, the bloodline, understanding your ancestors are with you, making sure you talk to them, really finding your place and space in the cosmos, having faith in something larger than yourself and whatever that is. Right? And then I went and put the whole thing in your hands with the practice. Where's your soul trying to fly? I want you to figure that out. And I taught you step by step how to do it for yourself. You come home to your body first because you cannot launch a soul from a body that you've abandoned. And many times the hustle and grind, you just have transcended your body and given it over to the machine. Then you get quiet, right? After you sit in yourself and you ask your soul one question, survival doesn't let you ask. If I were not surviving, if I were orchestrating my life, where would I fly? And whatever rises, you weigh it against the feather, right? On an honest scale, right? So you may have a choice. Many times it's going to come from your ego no matter what. But look, one of those choices feels light and true. The one you didn't censor, the one you didn't start questioning. Where would I fly? Right? The happy one. You follow the aliveness in your body because your aliveness was never a luxury, my friend. It was always the compass. We think our aliveness is something that happens on vacation or on the weekend. You keep a paper by your bed, you listen to your dreams, and then you draw it, right? Your dreams can tell you things, especially after you ask that question. Your flight map, that's your purpose in your own words, in your own hand. Get that bog practice guide and get to writing, right? And what does that do for you? It takes the vague, achy feeling of I am meant for more and turns it into purpose with coordinates, a real charter that your days can finally answer to, my friends. Now I want to stop and lift up the single biggest thing that happened this week because it is bigger than any body of light, right? This week held the hinge of the entire Ascension, right? The turn we have been walking towards since the first day. It turned from force to force. And let me say what those two words mean, because just like lifting and orchestrating, everything rides on them. Forced is the mule under the load, the lifter. It is the harness, the grind, the self that survives by muscle, and it survives alone. Force is the conductor, the orchestrator. It is the bird on the rising current, my friends. It is the soul co-creating with a power that is already moving through you. One is you against the world. The other is you aligned with a life far greater than your own two arms. And the Ba is the exact place the whole journey turns. Everything before this, I have no idea why I keep seeing flashes. Everything before this was the descent, right? Going down and into the body, the bloodline, the heart, the name, and the shadow. Right here at the soul, the descent becomes the return. We stop going down and we begin to rise. That's the gate of Ak. And the most beautiful thing is the whole enormous turn begins with one small question, a question you can ask over any task, my friend, any decision, any ordinary moment of your day. Am I about to lift this or conduct it? I say it again. Am I about to lift this or conduct it? I'm going to say it one more time. Am I about to lift this or conduct it? Right? That's all. And that question alone starts to carry you across the line. Right? Simple. Right? And once you cross it, watch what changes. Because when you ask those questions, if you realize you're orchestrating and not conducting, or if you realize you're lifting, not conducting, you might be able to discern how you feel, right? And maybe you can change your perspective on that lift if you still got to lift it, right? And then if you're saying you're conducting it, then you can discern what that feels like. And then it becomes second nature. You don't have to ask the question. You just know when this becomes a lift, and you know when something you are conducting, orchestrating it. That's the practice, right? Rest stops being laziness, my friend, and becomes sacred in this, because the one who conducts does not have to carry every note. So somebody can rest. And the lonely ego grinding all the way by itself gives away to Ubuntu. I am because we are, right? A life carried in community instead of gripped alone, right? It's hard to be gripping alone, you know? When I was younger, I used to always seek out a church to find community. I mean, I never really felt comfortable in those settings, but I knew I was around quote unquote decent people, right? That could help, and I could help. I taught Sunday school, I did other things, right? Times have changed a little bit, but we still need to find community. And somewhat community that is supportive and that gets it, not community that's going to tear you down. That Community that does not understand I am because we are, right? Because some communities will just take, and you're still grinding in that space, right? So you got to be careful about the communities that you involve yourself in. And there's one more thing this week made clear, my friends, and I want you to hold on to it from here, okay? Because it changes how perhaps you'll carry this whole path. The bodies of light are not rungs on a ladder, as I mentioned earlier. You don't just climb them and you just leave that one behind. No, they are inclusive. Every single one, once you meet it, is kept and carried with you into the next body of light, into the next chamber. You do not graduate from your body when you receive the bloodline. No, you do not leave your heart behind when we came to your name. Right? I'm going to say that again. You do not graduate from your body when we reach the bloodline. So when we were at the cot, you didn't leave that behind when we got to the cot. You didn't leave your heart behind, the ib, when we got to the ren. No. And this week proved it. I showed you what that meant, because Bob practice only worked because the whole path showed up to fly with it. And I encourage you to go listen to the Bob practice from yesterday. Think about what we actually did, right? You came home to your body, and that was the cot. The very first thing that we learned together, right? You weighed your answer against the honest feather, and that was the ib, the heart. You remember that you do not fly alone, that the line flies with you, and that was the ka, the bloodline. You spoke your map into being, and that was the ren, the power of your name, and the word Nomo. Okay? And you could finally hear your own soul because your shadow was home at last, and the static hopefully cleared a bit. And that was the shoot. You can all continue this practice in the temple, right? So you can become more aware of how to do these things and how to do this practice, right? The temple, power-profit.com/groups. Okay, our tradition, I'm going to say the African spiritual tradition says it plainly about this body, right? Caught before the flight always. The soul, and the cot is the body, the soul only rises from the body it can return to. So please hear me on this, right? The Ba is not a summit you reach and leave everything else below you. Mm-mm. It is the soul learning to fly with everything you have already become. You take all of it with you. And that's practice makes perfect. Now, let me bring this back to the thing that you actually made this week, because that is what turns a beautiful idea into a life you can live. And that is your flight map, right? That's the Bob practice guide, right? It is a purpose charter in your own words, written in your own hands, as if the soul and not the fear was the one holding the pen, right? And if you have not finished your Bob practice guide yet, that is all right. I'm going to remind you the shape of it so you can, right? What am I doing when I feel the most alive? The load I've carried was never mine to carry, right? What would orchestrating my life actually look like in concrete terms? Okay? The one direction my soul keeps flying to when I ignore it. And then the sentence it all resolves into, I am here to what? And you finish it in your own hand and you read it out loud three times, because in the teaching of Nomo, what you speak, you begin to build. And 3 times is the number of times you need to speak something into existence. All right. And so the direction your soul keeps trying to fly, we got to pay attention to it. It is often the very thing your shadow was once shamed for holding, right? That's your shadow self. Get rid of that. You got to do something with that. Don't show that side of you as ugly. So do not go looking for your purpose in only respectable places, quote unquote. Look for your map inside the very thing you were told to bury, because that is usually where you'll find your purpose. That is counterintuitive, right? Based on Western teachings, right? I love counterintuitive. So if you carry one thing out of this week, my friends, let it be this: your worth was never your output. Your worth was never your output. For most of your life, you were told the opposite, right? So your worth was never your output is counterintuitive to what we're told our whole entire life. You were taught that you had to earn your right to rest. Monday through Friday, and you get Saturday and Sunday, you got to earn that weekend. That's just a simple example, right? So you had taught you got to earn to rest, to take up space, to be here at all, right? And it kept you grinding. I like to say grinding, chasing a verdict on your own worth that this whole time was already yours. We just get so confused with the way we come to understand ourselves and who we are in this world. This week you learned the truth. You are worthy on the day you were born, my friends, before you produced a single cotton picking thing, before you earned a single dollar. And nothing you leave unfinished this weekend, nothing left on that endless list can touch that. Can't touch that. You are becoming someone new, my friends. Someone who conducts life instead of carrying one. Someone who flies instead of grinds, my friends. And I am so proud to watch my clients do this. And I would be so proud to help you do this. Right? So here's your invitation for the weekend, my friends. Something small, something you can do between now and Monday. This weekend, before you reach for the next heavy thing, I want you to pause just for a second and ask the one question: am I about to lift this or conduct it? Am I about to lift this or conduct it? Right? And then choose one task, just one, and conduct it instead of carrying it. Right? That's deep. Hand off a piece to somebody else, my friends. Align it. Get on the current. Let a power larger than your own two arms carry some of the weight for once. And yes, we're talking about a higher power, but a power larger than yourself is recruiting another energy to come help do this work. All right. And if you have not drawn your flight map yet, get that Bob practice guide, my friends. Give yourself 15 quiet minutes this weekend and do it. Finish the one sentence: I am here to. Yes, the free Bob practice guide in the resource library on power-profit.com walks you through the whole thing step by step. It is waiting there for you. And so, as I said, this week we completed the gate of Ba, my friends, the flight, and now the road turns and begins to climb toward the gate of Ak. And I'm so excited about this. The shining. This is the reframe in the power of release, my friends. The very next body of light we meet is the Sahu. Sahu. Sahu, my friends. The incorruptible self. Oh my goodness. That one, the one that circumstances can't shake. the self that stays whole throughout the job loss, the hard diagnosis, and the family storm, and the bad relationship. I got to throw that in there. And you already know the rule now. We do not leave the Ba behind as we go into the gate of Ka or the Sahu. We carry all the bodies of light with us. I encourage you to come on into the temple and do some of this practice with us if you want more, my friends. All right. And you get a 7-day free trial. Ooh, can't beat that. You got to put a little timer on your phone or a little calendar note. So you look back 7 days, 6 days. If you don't like it, you just cancel. Boom, over, done with. But at least you get to see what we're doing in the temple. Okay. Oh, don't forget the 9 body point reading. Okay. Don't forget that, because that gives you an understanding of where you might want to situate your time in the bodies of light, where you're strongest, where you're the weakest, right? And then there's a chamber read where we focus on just that one body of light. And yes, I'm a psychic. That's what I've been doing. I do that for years. I'm a 30 years psychic. Okay. And I'm a guide, spiritual guide. So I've been doing this work for a long time. Right. So we got the temple, and then we have the readings, right? And we try to work them all together. And also, as part of the temple, you get to have one. I don't do a 9 body point reading, but as part of the temple, you get to have a free. You can either have an oracle read, tarot read, whatever you want. A 45 minute. That's a long time. 45-minute read. Okay, so you get some goodies in there. Not to mention, you get access to the practice guides. You get access to live guided meditations. You get access to calling a name ceremonies, all kind of circles, full moon rituals. You get all kind of good stuff. Access to various herbs and little mojo bags that I prepare. I mean, just all kind of wonderful, wonderful things. This work, what I do here, only gives you a small piece of what it is that Minister Dr. Kalaka does for her clients. Okay? So, I'm going to finish this up. You came into this week. Oh, and don't forget about the resource set page, period. There's lots of resources on there, period. And they're all free. So you came in this week with the harness on your soul that was on a soul that was built for the open sky, and you are leaving it knowing you were never a mule. I hope you know this and believe it. The harness was never yours, my friends, and that you can conduct a life far greater than your own 2 arms could ever carry. And you did not rise alone. You did not rise empty. You rose home in your body, weighted by your own honest heart, carried by your unbroken line, named by your own word, with your shadow beside you at last. Those are all the bodies of lights we've covered. That is no small thing, my friend. That is you learning to fly. Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. But time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping. You got to do it. You got to do it now, right? So go and have a beautiful weekend. Set the grind down and rise. All right. I look forward to seeing everybody here next time. I ask you to please like, subscribe, hit notifications. You can see what's up on this channel, and I can get into the algorithms, my friend. Absolutely. We are doing this is the combination of the gate of Ba. This is the end of the Ba. And my friends, I thank you for being here today. And lastly, but not least, my friends, I encourage you all to go and check out the temple, right? 7-day free trial. You get a free 45-minute read with moi, Minister Dr. Akala Kama'at, at your side, my friends. So, this is the week you learn to fly. All right. Be blessed, be safe, enjoy yourself, and set the grind down this weekend. And don't forget your free practice spa guide. All right. See you soon. Bye bye. See you Monday.